Hello you guys. Before this video starts, I just wanted to quickly pop in and say I tried really hard to not have any spoilers in this video at all, but I do want to just preface that if you want zero spoilers, like absolutely don't want to hear anything about anything with a book, maybe wait until you finish that book before watching this video. The only reason I say that is because I do think that I did a good job of not having spoilers, or at least making things vague enough, but I personally hate when things are spoiled, and I don't want to do that to somebody else. So just in case, if that's you, just wait to watch this video until you've read the books, or maybe skip depending on which books you want to hear about or don't want to hear about. Just wanted to add that caveat. Anyway, thank you for being here and enjoy. Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess if you guys are new here, and I'm so excited to be filming this video for you guys right now. I am super excited because if you guys don't already know, the month of April is just like the best month ever if you are a book reader, because there are just so many books that are anticipated and so many books that are released, and it's just, it's like the best time. One of those books is an Emily Henry book, but I am getting ahead of myself. I just love, like, this type of feeling is like the best feeling when you're a reader, where there's just like so many things that you're so excited about, and it's not that feeling of like, oh, what book am I gonna read next? I know exactly everything that I want to read, in what order, the whole thing. So I'm super excited. I thought together we would go through some of our most anticipated reads, mostly from the month of April, but there is one that came out earlier and I just like never got around to it, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to do that. So I'm super excited to just talk with you guys about books, and especially books that I feel like I'm gonna really enjoy. The first one that I wanted to just talk about is Fearless. I actually just started this one this morning. This is the third in the Powerless series, and also the one that wraps everything up. I think there's also a novella coming out. Technically there's 4 books, but one of them is a novella, but this is like the third in the series, and then there's one more novella that is supposed to be released, but I don't know like what a release date for that looks like. I'm just super excited about this book. I was obsessed with Powerless. I felt like it was like just the same feeling that I got back in high school when I was reading Hunger Games. And if you guys are familiar with my channel, you guys might already know I am also currently rereading the Hunger Games. By this point, when you guys have seen this, I probably already reread the books because I was just like really excited for the next 2 books to come out. So that unfortunately will not be in this video, but this book, when I read Powerless, was just like, it was such a good book. It like truly was one of my favorites of the entire year. I just like couldn't stop thinking about it. So I'm so excited to just dive into the third. The second one, Reckless, was really good, but I think that it fell a little short for me, but a lot of the things that happened needed to happen in order to get us to where we are here. So I don't want to give you guys too many spoilers, but if you guys are not familiar with what's going on in this series, basically we have a world where everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people have some sort of powers, and then there are some people who are ordinaries and they don't have powers. And basically nobody had powers, and then something happened and all of a sudden some people got powers, and we call those people elites, and then the other people who are ordinaries don't have powers. So the kingdom started banishing the people who were ordinaries, effectively killing them off because they felt that they were just like a threat to the elites. They started these trials, which is kind of like what the Hunger Games experience is too, where like something happens, and then as a like reminder, like to pay homage to this big thing that happened at some point in the past, they have trials where they send people in. It's effectively a fight to the death. The trials in this book have a few other ways that you could, in theory, win. Like more people can survive. In theory, everyone could survive, but people do still kill each other off, whereas in the Hunger Games, it is a true fight to the death. That's sort of what like the book is about. Obviously, we follow our main character, who is an ordinary. Peyton obviously does not agree with what's going on, and that's why she's our main character. I don't want to, again, give too many spoilers if you haven't read the other books or if you're planning on reading them, but basically something insane happened at the end at the second book, and now we are here, and I'm dying to know how it continues, because I think last year it came out in like July, and I distinctly remember just being like, I can't believe I have to wait an entire year until I figure out what's going on next. So we're gonna dive into it right now. I read a chapter this morning. Well, I read the prologue and then I read a chapter. It already has me. I'm really excited. It does still have dual perspectives, so it goes through Kai's perspectives and Peyton's perspectives, and I'm especially excited for this book because I feel like like, at least within the YouTubers that I watch, I've seen a couple of mixed reviews. Like there's two YouTubers in particular that I tend to read very similar books to them. One of them didn't really like this book and one of them was obsessed with it. So I'm really curious to see where I fall, but I'm very excited. So we're gonna dive in right now. Yeah, I'm excited to be back in this world. I love these characters and I just love this writing too. So I'm very, very excited to learn about what happens with Peyton and Kai. Today's Saturday morning and I am reading Fearless. I'm currently on chapter 15, which is page 125. I've been really enjoying the book. I was a little nervous of it because of the reviews that I was seeing online, but I'm really, really enjoying it. The only thing is that sometimes Lauren Roberts' writing is like a bit flowery for me, and so sometimes I get like lost in her descriptions, but then once we're in a scene, like once the descriptors are away, then I can read faster. So I'm almost like slowing down a little bit. And then the only other thing that I've been noticing is that for some reason, because we are getting Kai and Peyton's perspectives, which is I think pretty much been the case the entire series, like the chapters just go on and off between Kai and Peyton, but now Kit is also there and he's also involved, and so in some instances it's kind of confusing because they'll be talking about something about Kit but in Kai's perspective or in Peyton's perspective, and so then when they're saying like I feel this or I'm doing this or whatever, I forget whose perspective we're in, if that makes any sense. So it's just like very brief, but it's enough to be like, wait, what's happening? And then I have to reread and it makes me a little slow. The content itself, I'm just getting like peak Kai. We're getting trials again, which I think is like a known thing about this book. Like there's more trials in this book. The dystopian type books are like some of my favorite genres. I'm just really loving it. And I think the romance between Kai and Peyton is what I was expecting and what I was hoping for. I forgot for a sec like how intense Kai could be. Then now that I'm in it, I'm like, oh yeah, we're back with Kai. The dynamic between Peyton and Kit, or just like all three of them, is just very interesting too. So I'm enjoying it so far, but those are like my main thoughts. I'm about 20% of the way through, so I have quite a bit to get through. This book is almost 600 pages, so there's a lot more that we have to discover, and I'm super excited for it. Hello you guys, I wanted to update you guys because I've been reading a little bit while I was on my lunch break today, and I haven't read too much more from the last time that I checked in with you guys. I'm still just past the 50% mark. The scene with the, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there is a scene where they're like in the water. I think that I'm finding a common thread with myself in books where, especially fantasy books, I don't know why, but like having the situation where an unrealistic character is able to like overcome insane odds is like kind of tough for me to read. I feel like it's just kind of unrealistic, which I think is sort of silly of myself to say, because the whole point of reading a book and the whole point of having your main character is that they are able to overcome certain odds. So in actuality, I think this is just like a me problem, but just the fact that she was able to overcome these odds and like the way that that happened, and the like way that it happened, like being written, like the chapters that these big things are happening in are like pretty small, quick chapters, and like I think it keeps the pacing really well in the book, but for some reason it's like we could have spent a little bit more time on some of these scenes, and so because they happen so fast, it kind of feels like all of this just happened and like happened so fast, and how is it that like no one else was able to do this, but then like she came out of nowhere and was able to complete this thing. There's also another scene that happens and it starts to get me into like, are we now back in a love triangle, which I'm kind of here for, because I think that like it was sort of tough to watch our main character be really into somebody and sort of just be forced into a situation with somebody else. But now that like there's some vague feelings, or like what I think are beginnings of vague feelings, I'm just curious how that's going to play out and like what's going to happen, because it seems like she's warming up to one of our other characters, and one, like how is Kai going to react to that, and two, like what does it mean that she's warming up to him? Like what's happening? And it's giving me Powerless vibes. Like it's kind of bringing me back to the first book where like like she kind of sort of had like her own relationships with both of the brothers. So it's been very, very interesting, and it's like picking up speed now. We also are already done with 2 of the trials and we're just past the 50% mark. So I'm very curious to see what happens in the last 50% because we only have 1 trial left, and obviously we do have to wrap up an entire series. So maybe that's why, but I am very, very intrigued, and I just like want to know how all of this ends because there's just so many loose ends as it stands right now. But I just know that that's going to make for a really amazing final 50% of this book. So I'm really liking this one way more than I liked Reckless. I think Reckless was still a good book, but it definitely was the middle book and had a bit of middle book syndrome. So I was very nervous about this one, but I think it's really, really good so far. I'm going to keep reading and I will continue to keep you guys updated, but those are my thoughts on it so far. Hi guys, I'm actually in a hotel room right now because I am visiting San Diego for the weekend, but I thought I would still give you some thoughts on Fearless. I have not read that much this weekend because I was mostly spending time with my family while I was here, but something that I feel like is happening right now, and I don't know if I'm just like making this up or if it's because I want it to be, but I forget his name now, but in the novella between Powerless and Reckless, we really follow Adina, which is one of Peyton's like it's her best friend, and we follow her actually in like her perspective. And while she is away from Peyton because Peyton is participating in the trials, she meets this boy. We don't really get a lot from him after that book because we go back into Peyton's perspective. Right now where I'm reading, I'm on chapter, please hold, 37. She's heading back over to Loot, which is where she grew up, and so she's like putting on all her clothes that are like a little bit more worn down, and she's thinking about just like wanting to be closer to that space again because she hasn't been there for a while. She's been like living in the kingdom and like the castle, and I have this feeling she's now been told about the boy because she didn't even know about him before, but I have a feeling that maybe she's gonna somehow meet him in like an upcoming scene. And I have been really wanting her to have this moment with this boy where she like finally gets to meet him and they get to talk about Adina without Adina being there, and like they get to meet and like just talk about how much they both really cared for the same person. I'm hoping that's what I'm gonna get. I don't know if it is, but I feel like he has to pop up somewhere in this book, because if he doesn't, then like he wasn't for nothing, but it kind of in a weird way feels that way, where it's like, why did you have me fall in love with this love story then if it wasn't going to go anywhere? I think that it will. I don't know if it's going to be in this scene or if it's going to be in the future, or if something else completely is going to happen. Like either he's going to see her and like want to attack her, or he's going to see her and just want to talk with her and understand her perspective, which, considering the fact that it's a romantasy novel, I don't think that he's just going to instantly be like, let's chat. So we'll see, but I'm very excited. And yeah, I was just kind of getting those vibes, and so I was like, okay, is this what's happening? So I will report back if that's what happens next. And if it doesn't, whenever it does happen, I will let you guys know because I'm just really hoping for it. Okay, I was right about them meeting, but the interaction that they had was not what I was expecting, and wow, that was pretty emotional actually. I don't want to say anything about it because I already feel like it's a lot to say that he like popped back up, but I think that if you've read the first 2 books, you know that at some point he's gonna come around, because like it would be weird if he didn't. But yeah, the interaction was not what I was expecting, and I love the way that it was written, everything about it, honestly. I'm really loving this book. It's definitely taking me longer than I think, like just in general this year I've slowed down on reading a little bit, weirdly enough, but I also know that it's partially because I've taken up other hobbies or, you know, have prioritized some other things too. But I love this book so far. Everything about it, that was not what I was expecting, and I'm so happy about it at the same time. Like I couldn't have gotten here myself. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, I'm gonna start to pack up and head back home soon, but then we will continue reading when I get back home. I just got to the 3rd trial. I wasn't prepared for this. Like I had this is sort of silly of me that I like didn't see it going in this direction, but I really didn't expect it to go in this direction. And now I'm just like, excuse me, how, what? I don't really have words right now, but I just wanted to capture this moment because I'm actually like floored right now and I don't have words. So I'm just gonna keep reading, but the 3rd trial really got me. Hello you guys, sorry my hair is all crazy. I just woke up, but I wanted to give you guys some thoughts on the book Fearless that I've been reading, because I was like doing a workout when I was reading some parts, and then it just, for whatever reason, I couldn't update you guys. So I wanted to update you guys now, but I did write down a couple of the notes in my phone. First of all, I don't know why, but there's a really particular character, and hopefully I am making it obvious enough if you guys have read the book, but if you haven't, I'm trying to not give any spoilers. There's a really particular character who kind of like inserted himself into the king's life and like has become someone that the king really trusts. But for some reason, he's just like really sus to me. Like he's giving me weird vibes and I don't know what it is about him. Also, the fact that the king just keeps like coughing the way that he does is also weird to me. Like there's clearly things happening, but in particular this one guy, I don't know what it is about him. Like it's possible that I read the entire book and I was just totally off, but something feels odd. I don't know why. The whole third trial, I'm not kidding, I was on the treadmill walking in my room nearly crying, and the things after the trial were also so devastating. Like it was so sad to me because I feel like we got to this point of like getting to know a character just for that character to be ripped away from us. I'm currently just past the 75% mark. I'm on page 457 and chapter 58. The big thing that we like found out about at the end of Reckless just happened. We're like kind of in the middle of it all, I guess. So there's like, again, some things that are happening within that. So anyway, those are my thoughts for now. I'm gonna continue reading, but I'm hoping to finish this book today and then I can give you guys some final thoughts. But if I don't finish it today, I'll probably finish it tomorrow because I really only have like 23% left of the book. I'm very excited to like see how everything ends because I've heard that from 70% onward is when like everything picks up and I'm right there. So let's see how everything ends. I freaking knew it. I freaking knew it. It's only been like 4 minutes since I last talked to you guys. I knew something was about to happen and I was like, I need to get my thoughts out before something happens. At the beginning of this book, you get maybe like a peek into the past king's life and he says something or like does something. I was like, I have a feeling that XYZ thing is the truth. It is. It's the truth. So that just like makes me curious how everything else is going to play out in this book because what? Like everything's different now. This is actually crazy. It's been a second, but I just finished last night Fearless, and I think I'm gonna land on giving it a 4-star rating. I really enjoyed the book. The reason why I didn't give it a 5-star is only because it was nearly 600 pages, and I think that kind of like made the book go a little bit longer. Obviously it made it go longer, but almost too long. I think that this book could have very much been like a 400-page book, something around that length, and I would have gotten a lot of the same things out of this book. I really loved the adventure. I loved that we got to see new parts of this world. I loved that there was so much that was like being discovered about our characters that we thought that we already knew really well, and also their intentions specifically. All of these things were like so amazing about this book, and I think that were like just so well done. Honestly, like truly, Lauren Roberts made such a good trilogy, and I really love our characters. I do think that obviously a lot of the stuff that happened with our characters was very predictable, so in that sense it was like kind of tough because I already knew exactly what was going to happen or like what I was expecting to happen. I always knew that 2 of our main characters were going to end up together. It was more about the journey for me as to like how they were going to get there, which was still super enjoyable, but sometimes it's nice to like have to consider whether or not that thing is going to happen. So anyway, those were my thoughts. I really loved the book. I'm so glad that I finally got to it. I was so nervous about this book because I felt like it was so hit or miss from so many different people online. So I'm so glad that I loved it. I decided that the next book that I was going to pick up was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is another one that I feel like I'm a little bit nervous about. Emily Henry's newest releases, like from Beach Read onward, have all been romance novels, and that's how I found Emily Henry. Every other book of hers has been a 5-star. I'm very grateful that I'm not reading this on release day, and I've been able to see a few reviews about the book because people who have read it have been like, do not anticipate a mystery thriller, do not anticipate a romance. Like it's truly just a generalized fiction novel. I'm only 30 pages into the book, so I don't have too many thoughts so far, but basically our main character is a aspiring writer. She writes for a paper, but she's not like top tier, and she is essentially bidding to write a biography of somebody who has this like insane life, who then like disappeared from the limelight. And she's competing with this other man who we all assume she eventually falls in love with. And he is like a Pulitzer Prize winner. So like he knows how to write. And so she's kind of competing, and it sounds like they start to write the book together. So I'm at the point where I think that like she's already met the other woman, Margaret, and she knows who her like nemesis in this book is. And now I think they're at the moment where they're deciding that like they're both gonna write this thing together in a way. Again, that's not really a spoiler at all. This is 30 pages into the book. I am intrigued to see how Emily Henry tackles this. Again, I've heard some mixed reviews, so I don't know. I'm excited for something different though, because I feel like I anticipate something from her. In general, her writing is just so amazing, and that's why I get a 5-star feeling every time I read one of her books, because I am transported to where these characters are, and I'm just like obsessed with each of these characters. So I don't think it's necessarily the romance, because I'm not a huge romance reader. So I'm excited for something different from her. I'm just so curious to see how she tackles this type of genre. I'm excited to continue reading this one. I think I'm just gonna start tackling it for the rest of today as well. I'm almost done with work, so I'm just super excited because I feel like I've been reading at a faster pace now that I'm back in an Emily Henry book too. I just finished chapter 5, and this is something that I love about Emily Henry books, is that like her characters are just so deep, but you don't really know everything about them right from the very beginning. Like they're very much like real people, where like the first time that you meet somebody, you don't automatically know everything about them, but you like slowly find out more as you choose to get to know them. This is the first time in this book that we're finding out that there's something up with our main character, Alice. She clearly had some sort of situation happen with her sister. I'm curious to see what it is and how that plays into everything else, but she has some anxiety with like closed doors and like whatever happened behind them. So something must have clearly happened to her sister. I'm hopeful that these things aren't just like a bunch of tiny micro stories within one story, although that is how life works, I understand. But I'm hoping that like at some point all of these things like make sense together and it doesn't feel like tossed together, and it feels cohesive. Makes me a little bit nervous because I don't know if it will be. I wonder too if we will get that with our male main character, Hayden. We shall see. Okay, so I am officially on page 70 of Great Big Beautiful Life, and I'm on the story chapter, which is like between chapters 7 and 8. So it literally just says the story, it doesn't have a chapter number. Up until this point, we haven't heard from like Margaret's particular perspective. We've only heard from basically our main character Alice's perspective. I think a couple of the things that people have commented on is that at first they're not interested in Margaret, they're interested in the love story between our two main characters, and then eventually that flips and they don't really care about the love story and they really care about Margaret. And then number 2 is that the love actually feels very like insta-lovey. I kind of understand where people are coming from, where it feels a little insta-lovey. To me, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like two people getting to know each other so far. It still feels like our male main character isn't really letting our female main character in, but I do kind of start to like take back what I've said before, where like he felt very like standoffish before and like I didn't really like him as a person, but now I feel like he's kind of letting her in a little bit, and I just feel like he's like admitting that he can get to know her a little bit. So far, I am very intrigued in both sides of the story. Like I want to see how the love plays out, but I feel like more than anything, I'm intrigued by Margaret's story. I do care about our character, but I feel like I care about Margaret a little bit more. So far, I'm enjoying it. It's just flying by, honestly. I just feel that way about any Emily Henry book. Like it just goes by so fast, which is so enjoyable. Really, really, really loving that part. I just got back from my run with my friends. It is Sunday, and I started listening to Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Unfortunately, I only made it to chapter 4 because I ran out of Spotify listening hours, and my Libby app says that it's a 15-week wait for the book, but my hours renew on the 22nd, so that's in like 4 days. I'm just gonna start listening to it again, but I wanted to give my initial thoughts on the book because I've heard a few things about it, and I kind of wanted to like give you guys what my thoughts are, especially since I'm so early on. A couple of the things that I've seen online is trigger warnings are dementia and something to do with animals. So that's one thing. There are TikTok references and also just like how insta-lovey it is. So the dementia and like the animals, I don't know the animal thing yet. I did hear the trigger warning because it reads it off in the audiobook as well from the author. So far the dementia hasn't been triggering me. It's something that my family experiences, so I was very nervous about that part, but I think so far it's okay. So that's the good news, but I don't know how that will progress. The TikTok references, so far all it is they're comparing the male main character to Rhysand from A Court of Thorns and Roses. They keep comparing him to that person, and it's just like, I don't know. I see why people are like, it's a little bit cringy, especially because I have like mixed feelings about that whole series. So the instant lovey part is the last one. And by basically chapter 3, the male main character asks out the female main character, and it's just like, it happens so fast. By chapter 4, they're already on a date. So part of me feels like I also felt like it was kind of jarring, and I was trying to like sort of reflect as to like why I felt that way, because I feel like most people's love stories happen that way, right? Like your love story doesn't start usually by a enemy relationship or a friendship or whatever on a like typical basis. It's usually by somebody asking the other person out, and then it goes from there and it like stems, and it does or it doesn't. Some people do obviously have a friendship first, but I think because we're so used to books, it's very jarring when they just like immediately ask the other person out by chapter 3. And then on top of it, with this particular situation, I think the other thing that made it feel jarring was they were kind of like, I don't want to say going at it because it wasn't that serious, but they were kind of like annoyed with each other. Then all of a sudden he asked her out of nowhere. So I feel like there was a little bit of tension, and then it was like unexpected that he was just randomly going to turn around and be like, do you want to go on a date? If they were like kind of flirtatious, I think that would have like made maybe a little bit more sense, but it just like, it felt a little out of left field. So those are the thoughts so far. I'll have more thoughts within the next couple of days because I literally can't listen to it right now, but when I pick it back up, I will let you guys know. But I'm gonna grab some food, and then I'm gonna come back home, and I'm gonna continue reading Great Big Beautiful Life because I've been like so into that book right now. I'm really, really excited about it, and I love it so much so far. So I'm super excited to get back into that book in particular. Hello you guys, I am just about to start reading again this morning. I'm still reading Great Big Beautiful Life, and I figured I would update you guys because I have just been devouring this book. I'm 50% of the way through now, which is roughly around chapter 20, and I have a couple of thoughts. As always, I wrote them down because sometimes I just like am so into the reading, I don't speak to you guys. So Margaret's chapters are like when she's telling her story, they're called the story, and then the other chapters are just like numbered. And the story chapters is funny because some of them have like, or all of them have their version of like what the popular belief was about this family at the time, or like the particular character that she's talking about, or like person in her family she's talking about, and then it has her version. So it's like, for example, in this one, their version, what it must have been like to be raised in a castle. Her version, what it's like to be raised in a castle, because that was just like her norm. But there's one that was so funny, and it was about, I think, her dad, and it says their version, Frederick Ives was a jealous man. Her version, Frederick Ives was a jealous man. And I just thought that was really fun. So a couple of the things that I have seen online, or like on reviews or on Goodreads or whatever, in comparison to my own thoughts, I feel like reviews have been saying that a lot of the story is not really connected. Like there are the moments where we're focused in on the romance, and then there are moments where we're focused in on this like interview and Margaret's family and like what happened with her family and all of that. It's interesting because I actually don't mind the disjointedness. I think that it like fully feels like you are in like a summer internship and there's a guy that you think is cute in the program, and you know that you can't really date. When you're at work, you like try really hard to be professional, and it's just like this summer fling type of feeling, and that's what it's giving me, honestly. So I feel like it's actually kind of fun that it can be disjointed. Like she can still very much be focused in on work, focused in on these interviews, focused in on like wanting to do these things, and then also simultaneously she can want to start to get to know this guy better. I do like Margaret's elements. I feel like I'm very much interested in both sides of the story, the romance, Margaret's elements, like all of it. And in a way it kind of reminds me more of like the elements of Where the Crawdads Sing, which sounds so silly, but that book is like about a murder, and it's also about about this girl growing up. And for so long in the book, you focus in on this girl growing up and like how she grew up, that like the murder takes like a side step for a second. And then when it comes back, you're like, whoa. It almost gives me that same feeling of that in comparison to like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, where it's solely focused on the interviewing process and you kind of don't know anything about your interviewer. It's just like they're more of like a vehicle for that interview taking place. We still don't really know why Margaret wants to tell her story right now, so I'm sure we will figure that out too. I am interested to see why that is, but it's just like it's not the reason why I'm reading either. When I take a step back, it's almost like there's nothing necessarily like trapping me in, but the writing itself is what's doing that. Like I want to know the stories because I feel like these are real people and real characters, and like the writing is just that good. But those are my thoughts so far, and I'm excited to get into the rest of the book and like the second half of the book, because I think that there's going to be so many crazy things that happen and I'm excited to read about them. Kind of mad at myself. I am 60% of the way through Great Big Beautiful Life, and I know that our female main character's dad has passed away. Like we know that it happens like I think 2 years before the book even starts. So I was reading this morning and I just kind of remembered earlier too. I was like, how is it that her dad died? Like, am I just forgetting, or like, I don't know, like what is it? So I looked it up. There was more explanation and I think I might have spoiled some of it for myself. I like stopped reading the article, but if what I read was accurate, then I think I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed with the ending of this book, and I'm like really hoping that that's not it. I was actually originally like not really checking in that often because I feel like something weird is happening with this book where like I'm intrigued to know how the story ends and like all of the details about these characters, like why Margaret wants to tell her story now, like how the love plot works out between our two other main characters, but there's nothing like really forcing me into like wanting to read. Like I'm not like staying up late wanting to read this book either, so it's like a weird feeling because I've never experienced that with an Emily Henry book. I see a little bit about like why people are saying it reminds them of Seven Husbands, because like even though the actual like the way that the interviews are happening doesn't necessarily remind you of that book, it just like the vibes, and like if this situation is real, like that is going to feel like Seven Husbands in a really weird way. So I'm really nervous, and now I feel like I do need to read it because I like just want to know how it ends, but I'm worried. I have always rated, I think I've rated almost every single one of Emily Henry's books 5 stars, and I thought that I was really enjoying this one, and I'm like not so sure anymore. So we're gonna keep reading for right now, but I'm just a little nervous. I don't know, it's just I don't know how it's gonna end, and I'm scared. Hello you guys, today is Monday morning. I am so tired and I just woke up, but I wanted to update you guys on the book that I've been reading, which is Great Big Beautiful Life. I finally made it to about 80% of the way through. I'm on a story chapter. Now that I've gotten to the 80% mark and Margaret's story is totally picked up, that's all I really care about right now. And the romance is like fun, but if it switches back to the romance, I'm just gonna be like, I don't really care. There's a lot of stuff going on with like Margaret's sister, Margaret's relationship, like all of this stuff, and I do think I saw a spoiler for myself, but I'm hopeful that there's still going to be a lot of surprises. I'm going to continue reading and see what happens. I'm going to finish the book today, which I've been saying to myself for the last like 3 days. I'm kind of bummed because usually Emily Henry is a 5-star read. I can finish an Emily Henry book so quickly, but I've been in a mix of like not really, like I've been wanting to like do other things besides just read, and also like this book in particular is not making me want to just binge it or like pick it up when I don't have it up. So anyway, long story short, I'm gonna keep reading. I don't know that it's gonna be a 5-star, but we'll see how I feel at the end of the book too. But before it gets crazy, because I feel like this is where it's about to get crazy, I wanted to update you guys. Let's go read and see how it ends. Hello you guys, I just wanted to give you guys an update on the book that I'm reading, Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I am currently on chapter 15 and that is about 30% of the way through, 29% to be exact. Basically, our two main characters are living in Minnesota. They meet and they decide to go on a date, and then after their first date, which is just kind of like a weird and kind of goes off the rails type of date, after that date, our female main character has to move to California because she needs to help in taking care of her mom. Her mom has dementia, so she just needs extra care, and she has a big family, but like they need extra hands basically. That's like the premise of the book so far. I haven't like gotten too much further than that right now, and basically where we're at is our male main character is like, but I really liked you, so I kind of want to come see you. And it's very sweet, but it is very insta-lovey, which is like something that I saw a lot on reviews and things like that, that it was pretty insta-lovey. I am enjoying it. I think I'm really liking that I decided to read it as an audiobook. I don't know how I would feel about reading it physically. I really like Abby Jimenez's writing a lot, but this book in particular just like doesn't grab me as much as some of her other books have, and I don't really know why that is, but overall I am enjoying it. Again, I can't really speak to like how I would enjoy it if I was reading it physically, but I'm really liking the audiobook. I also really love that in this audiobook they actually have a female and male voice actor or voice actors, which is super nice. And on top of it, I've had books before where, let's say like it rotates chapters, so they'll have like the male voice actor narrate the male chapters and the female voice actor narrate the female chapters. However, when like the guy is saying something, the woman will still try to like do a deep voice or whatever. And instead, in this one, they just cut to the other voice actor, which I really love. It makes it feel like I'm watching a movie. It feels more cinematic. It like just does so much more for me when I'm actually like hearing a man's voice and not a woman going like, what do you mean by that? It's just like, it's very different. I have a lot of reading to do on this one, but because I'm listening to it as an audiobook, I think I'll be able to get through a good chunk of it over the next few days, especially because I'm doing some travel, so I'll be able to like listen on the airplane and things like that too. Those are the thoughts, and I'm gonna head back over to go read Great Big Beautiful Life because I have 20% left of that book and I need to know how it ends. So let's go read. I am on chapter 34. There's only 35 chapters plus one more like the story chapter. So I literally have 3 chapters left to read. And chapter 33, so much was unveiled. I haven't gotten to the part that I think I may have already spoiled for myself. So it sounds like that's like at the very end, maybe, if that's actually true, or like if what I read was accurate. But chapter 33 had something insane that I was like not expecting, and I think honestly that turned everything around for me in this book. At first I was feeling like I don't not like the book, like I really enjoy it a lot, but at first I felt like our characters are just kind of like there to compete, and like almost like they were chosen for no reason, if that makes sense. And there are so many reasons as to why they were chosen, and I have thoughts, but I don't know how it's gonna end, so I don't know if those thoughts are like real or not, like if what I'm thinking is like the direction that I need to be going in, or if something else is gonna happen that's gonna make me think a different way. That chapter was just, it was so good. I was not seeing that coming at all, and I'm sure I maybe could have guessed it, but truly like there was no way to know, because one of our main characters is like mildly unreliable, which I kind of love. I love like when you don't know if the truth is being told to you because you're hearing it from like a person's perspective, if that makes sense. So it's like for them it's the truth, but you don't know if that's the real truth. Yeah, I'm loving it. Okay, I'm gonna finish the last few chapters of the book. I think I probably have like 30 minutes to read in the whole book, and I'm just excited to see how it all plays out. So let's keep reading and finish it, and I will give you guys all of my final thoughts. Okay, I just finished Great Big Beautiful Life. I have no idea what I want to read this book. First and foremost, I misspoke earlier when I said that I gave myself a spoiler. I guess I didn't. So I'm really happy because I hate spoiling things for myself. And sometimes I have this sense of like, did I just like forget something as I was reading the book? Or is this something that like is yet to be discovered? Or like, did they purposefully not mention this in the book? So that's why I had even searched it to begin with, but I need to just stop searching things, and like if I forget something, it's fine, it's probably okay. This is why I like reading with friends too, because sometimes then I can just like text them and be like, wait, did I forget why or how this thing happened? But anyway, the funny thing is that because I was so like thinking that that thing was gonna happen, I didn't even see the other thing happening. I don't know if that makes any sense because I'm trying to actively not give you guys spoilers, but I thought that we were going in a direction, so I was like trying to like find the hints of that direction, and then we went this way and I was like, whoa, was not expecting that. So it was actually kind of beneficial to my reading experience. It's interesting because we also don't get a lot about our female main character, Alice. Her sister is, or was when they were younger, sick. We know that she has some sort of like heart condition, and she was like very sick when they were younger. She got better. Even still, even though she's better and she like lives a full life, she's in the Peace Corps, our main character is like still so stressed out about her sister being sick, And it's interesting because that's one detail that I feel like was more told to us rather than felt. It's also difficult though because you can only add in so many details before you have to just like tell your reader something. So I think that that was just like such low hanging fruit that it didn't matter as much to the story. I don't know, I just wish that we would have gotten a little bit more on that front. And then the end just felt really rushed. It was so interesting and exciting and I loved every piece of it. I just wish that like it would have been like either a tiny bit longer or maybe some of the middle scenes were cut out, or I don't know, something like that, because I think the length of the book itself was fine, but it ended up making me feel like we rushed the end, and like that last 20% was so interesting, but it took a second to get there. So I don't know, I wanted more almost. Having Emily Henry do something so different was so good, and I loved the way that she did it. She somehow made me interested in both the romance and this other mystery, but I think as I'm talking about it, like I did love the book a lot, so I might give it 4 stars. I think this is like a really great direction that Emily Henry is going in, and I'm really happy to see her not just doing romance and doing like more fiction and like more mystery, or like, I don't know, just like these different kind of interesting plots. Like I really loved this book a lot. So I do highly recommend that one. Honestly, I have been anticipating an Emily Henry for so long, and I'm just like so happy that I've read another one because her work is just truly amazing. Like I can bet almost every time, actually every time, that I'm going to love the book in some way, shape, or form. And a 4 star, just to be clear, is still such a fantastic rating. So I'm really happy that I got to read that book. So that is the end of that one. I want to go back into Say You'll Remember Me, but I think I'm gonna read more of that one tomorrow. We'll talk more about that as I continue reading it. Okay, I've made it to chapter 20 of Say You'll Remember Me, which is about 43% of the book. I still am not quite at the 50% mark. Basically where we're at is that our 2 main characters are now living in different cities, and they've come to terms with the fact that they cannot date because it just wouldn't work for so many reasons. If our male main character had a normal job, then he would be able to just like up and leave that job if he was really that in love with her. But he can't just do that when he owns a business and is in debt because he owns this business. So like there's just so many things like that that exist in this book, and they're like finally again coming to terms with that. It is definitely interesting and I'm intrigued by the book, but simultaneously I feel like I'm very glad that I'm like listening to this and not reading it, because I think that I maybe would be bored at this point. I don't feel compelled to pick up the audiobook unless I'm driving or on a run or something like that. So I do want to try to like just power through and finish it soon, because what I am intrigued by is I want to know how they're going to figure it out, because usually in some kind of romance novel, you will have the 2 main characters fall in love and figure it out against all odds. And I'm kind of curious, like, does this book still follow that general guideline where they are like against all odds trying to figure it out and the whole thing? Or are they like, you know what, this is just not gonna work, and they're just suffering through the pain? I do appreciate that the timeline is kind of skipping. So like randomly at the beginning of a chapter will say that it's like 6 weeks later, because we don't need to know all of the details of like how sad they were over the course of those 6 weeks, or like how they're like visiting each other multiple times within a month. Like that just like wouldn't be realistic. So I do like the reality of that side of things and like long distance relationships. And then I do also enjoy the pieces of our female main character's family and like those dynamics. But I don't know, it's like sometimes I feel like books are kind of doing too much. Like I almost wish that I would either have a book about a woman who is like exploring how to assist her family while her mom is suffering from dementia, or a romance novel, and putting them together feels just, I don't know, I'm not sure how I'm liking it. So I'm gonna continue to listen to it and update you guys along the way, but I'm hopeful that within the next few days we get through the rest of the chapters and I will have more to say. Let's see what happens, because honestly I'm at the point where I just like want to skip to the end and know how it ends. I'm on chapter 22 now of Say You'll Remember Me. This is like one of my pet peeves, like in real life, in books, like just all around. It's one of my pet peeves. There's a point where the male main character, we all know it's a romance novel, it's gonna end in them kissing and whatever. There's a point where they're kissing and he says something like, oh, I was kissing my wife, and I like don't know how I knew that, but I just knew that she was gonna be my wife one day. I hate that. I hate that so much. Hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. I really don't love when books do that. Like it actually like really irritates me. It's one thing to meet somebody and want to continue to date them and continue to see them, but to say something like, oh, I know that this person is gonna be my wife when you've gone on 3 dates just feels like a lot. And I just don't love it. Maybe I'm like cynical and I just like don't believe in like that kind of stuff, but it just feels like a lot to me. Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading it. I want to see how it ends. Like I truly want to know how they like solve everything, but I just hate stuff like that. Okay, I'm kind of speed running this book, not speed running it, but like I'm listening to it pretty quickly at this point, and I'm now on chapter 35, which is 78% of the way through, but around the 75% mark. First of all, something sad happened, but also something kind of ridiculous happened, and the sad thing was really sad, but the ridiculous thing was like more of like a plot point that was kind of ridiculous, and it's like one of those situations in which like you're in an impossible situation and then out of nowhere someone swoops in and like saves the day miraculously, and then now I can like see the light at the end of the tunnel as to how they are gonna do everything that they want to do. And I don't know, I just feel like no one comes in and does the thing that someone does for our main character. If you guys have read this book, maybe you know, but it's too unrealistic. It's taking me out of the story. I have about an hour left to listen of this book, but I don't know what would have to happen for all of my opinions to be totally shifted, but I just don't know what I'm gonna rate this book right now. Okay, I just finished Say You'll Remember Me, and at first like I was kind of getting irritated with the book, I think, but I ultimately decided to give it 3 stars because I do still think that it was a really good book. It was really cute. Overall, I really did enjoy the book. I do think that it was like short enough, like it wasn't like 400, 500, 600 pages, which is good because I don't think the story needed to be longer than like the 350 or so pages that it was. You know, honestly, looking at it for like its face value, I do think that it was a romance at the end of the day, but it had a lot of elements of the main characters' lives, like actual lives, their family members, like all of that, which I did really enjoy. I still feel like the heaviness and like the way that like the dementia topics were brought into it were just kind of a lot. I did give it a 3 star. I was kind of teetering between a 2 and a 3, and I just felt like it wasn't bad writing. Like everything was cute or very deep and meaningful. The writing itself was still fantastic. It's still Abby Jimenez, and I still love her writing style and like just everything that she has to offer. It wasn't super like spicy or smutty or whatever. Like there were a few small scenes, but it was not like the bulk of the story, which I really enjoyed, but it didn't do much for me either. So that's why I landed on a 3. The last book that I have as an anticipated read that I have not picked up yet is Onyx Storm, and I have kind of been putting this one off. I'm like very nervous about this one. I have heard online that like maybe like the first 100 pages you're just confused. There's so many names, there's so many things happening that it's just confusing, and I'm a little nervous to go into this one, I'm not gonna lie. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start it as an audiobook, and then I will like lean into it as a like physical book, which is what I did a couple of months ago for Dance of Thieves, and it really helped so much because just like hearing the intonations of what's going on from the voice actor and all of those kinds of things was super helpful. So that's my goal. That's what I'm gonna do. That's gonna be the next book that I read, and let's see how it goes because I've really been putting this one off since like January. We are officially starting Onyx Storm, which has been one of the most anticipated books on my reading list, but I've been so intimidated by this book. I've not been wanting to start it because I'm so nervous because of length, and also just because I don't want to be disappointed. Originally, I thought that I was going to be able to listen to a few hours of this on Spotify because then I was like, okay, that'll get me into the book and then I can like read from there. Kind of like what I did with Dance of Thieves. But when I went to Spotify the other day, I tried to like download it because I was going to be on a flight, and apparently it's not one that is included in premium. I just was like, okay, whatever. I read some recaps because I felt like that was gonna set me up for some success. I actually got really lucky, and on Libby I got a skip the line copy, which means instead of a full 21 days you can borrow a book for 7 days. So I got that and I started listening to it yesterday, but let me tell you, I did not retain any of the information. Sometimes with books, like I retain a lot when I listen to them as audiobooks, and for some reason others, I zone out. I like cannot pay attention. So this morning I completely started fresh. I reread the prologue and the first chapter. So now I know exactly what's happening. I also looked up chapter summaries just in case because I'm forgetting so many different people's names and like who's who, or like who was originally whose friend. It just gets really confusing. There's like way too many people, and that's what I did see online, is that like the first 100 pages are just confusing and you have to just get through it. I'm committed. I'm gonna get through it. it. I'm gonna try to finish it within, I think I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks, because normally I would finish a book, like a standard book, within like maybe a week or so, maybe 5 days if I was like really putting my mind to it. But this book is 800 pages, so I think I'm gonna give myself a full 2 weeks to read it. I hope that maybe I can finish it sooner, but I don't know, we'll see. So I will certainly keep you guys updated along the way. I don't know what I'm expecting right now. I've somehow steered clear of so many spoilers online, so I am happy about that, but I am excited to see what happens next. And I'm just a little like nervous too, I think, because I don't think anything will be like Fourth Wing, and Fourth Wing was just so good, and having these stories continue, I've noticed like I almost prefer them to be standalone. The continuous war and adding the new characters, and there's just so many characters to remember, and then like the weird tension with these romances that are like on off, it's a lot. And so after a while it's like, okay, we get it, it's like the same story over and over again. So I think that's why I don't usually love, as weird as it is, the like second, third, fourth, whatever book in a series. So let's get into some reading today and see how far we get. And as things progress, I will continue to update you guys on all of the craziness, because it did end on a cliffhanger in the last book. So I do want to know how all of it ends. I can't remember if I've talked to you guys at all yet about Onyx Storm, but basically I tried to listen to it as an audiobook. I read a bunch of like different synopses of the first 2 books, and I found myself while listening to the audiobook just kind of sitting there and being like, wait, what just happened? And then trying to go back and then being like, wait, how did we get here? And then I just kept going back and back and back, and I was like, I need to just like almost start this book over. So I decided ultimately that it's probably better if I just read it. Even this morning I tried one more time and I was like, while I'm on my walk with P, let me just listen to the audiobook, and I think it's better that I read it, because there's just like so many moving parts, there's so many things going on. For some reason that works for me sometimes to listen to audiobooks, other times it's just so much better for me to physically read it, and I think this is one of those times. So I am going to be getting more into it, but honestly, like I originally was on like chapter 9 and I just didn't feel confident in what I was listening to, so I'm now on chapter 2 and here we are. I'm gonna be reading over the next couple of days. I really have not read a lot like today or yesterday, so I think I just need to get into it. I don't know why there's this like mental block for me when I like think about picking up this book. I feel super intimidated, but then once I'm actually reading it, I feel fine and I'm like excited to read it. So I don't know where this like intimidation is even coming from. I think I just like know that a lot of things are happening and that it's a very long book, so it's just kind of like freaking me out, but I shouldn't be freaked out. But I am gonna continue to read this as quickly as possible, so I will update you guys as soon as I actually have updates on how I'm liking the story. But I do like that already in like chapter 1 something crazy happens and the momentum of the book is already there again, which is the whole reason why I really liked this series. There's just like so many things happening and I really like the movement that we have in it. Good morning, you guys. This morning I'm just reading Onyx Storm and I'm on page 92. So I feel like I've gotten past the point of like reintroductions. Not that there were any reintroductions. Like sometimes I complain in books because they'll like reiterate who somebody is in like a second or a third book, even though there weren't that many characters. But in this book, we could have done a little bit more of like reintroducing people. But because I read a recap of the first 2 books, I feel a little bit more prepared. I'm not like confused, but there's definitely still people or places that I'm like, I don't remember the dynamic here, but I'm finally at a point where some information is being told to us at the beginning of every single chapter. There's like some sort of snippet of something, like whether that's from one of their textbooks or from old archives or whatever. And in one of them, it says something to the effect of like having all 6 like certain types of powers is super rare. It's only happened one time. And having multiple, just like multiples, not all 6, is also very rare. The cadets in this story, they don't get to choose their powers. It's all based off of like what their dragon gives them, essentially, which sounds weird saying that out loud, but you get what I'm saying. Long story short, we just found out that there are 2 people who have a pairing of powers that like go well together, and they haven't seen that pairing in particular in centuries. It's very heavy information, but it kind of like makes you feel hopeful about the war that is about to take place, because we're about to go into a full-blown war. So it is very interesting. That's pretty much the only like big information that we've gotten. I think that like it's done a good job of like setting up, since the last book, Iron Flame ended on a total cliffhanger. I think it's helpful to like have some of the setup that we had. With this being an 800-page book, the first 100 pages are just setup, which normally you get that in any other book in maybe like 20 or 30 pages, maybe 40. So I don't feel like I have much information except for this like one little piece that I've learned right now. I'm gonna continue reading. It says that I have like almost 18 hours left of the book. It's a little daunting to look at that number, but I know that once I get to single digits, I'll feel a lot better. And once I'm picking it up, I am really enjoying it. I don't know if if that feeling is gonna go away and I'm gonna like be dying to read it later because more will be happening and I'm just like sort of in the beginning phases of the book. So we'll see. Okay, I am on chapter 8 now of Onyx Storm. I feel like generally, I've said this a couple of times, but like the recaps that I read really helped with better understanding what's going on with this story. But I am still hitting a lot of snags where I kind of will like get to a chapter where I'm like, I sort of understand what's happening, but I don't understand why we're doing this thing or like what the importance is. I don't know like half of the names in that chapter, so it's getting like increasingly difficult, and honestly I'm just like not reaching for this book. I've also tried multiple times now to listen to the audiobook and that's also been really tough for me, so I'm hoping that I can just push through and get through some more. Even when I understand the key points, I'm like, but why? Like, what am I missing? Because it feels like this was just like something random, like a curveball tossed into the story. It is intriguing. I just don't feel like, it's giving me the same feelings as the first or the second book. I feel like a lot of people online didn't love the second book in comparison to the first. I really liked it, but the first was the best one. I don't know how I'm feeling. Like, if I'm already feeling this way about this book, I'm curious how I'm going to continue to feel on like book 4 and 5 whenever those are released, because it's just a lot. I want to try to finish this book. I said I wanted to give myself 2 weeks, but I did not read nearly as much over the course of this last weekend because I was not in town. So I don't know if I'm still going to be able to read it within the timeline that I've given myself originally, but I'm hopeful that I can try to finish it within this next like week or so, like maybe by the end of this weekend, which would be ideal. So we'll see, but for now I'm just going to remain hopeful and I'm going to continue to read, and I will update you guys when something crazy happens in the book, because I really feel like I'm like barely scratching the surface with what's going on and like just having a lot of setup, so I don't even have anything to tell you guys about the book yet. Hello you guys, it's been a hot second since I've talked to you guys about Onyx Storm. I've gone through ups and downs with this book, so here's where I'm at. I listened in an audiobook up to chapter 9, and I was like, I'm kind of not fully paying attention, but now that I've like gotten back in the world, I want to actually read the book. So I started all over and I read the book because I was gonna just jump into chapter 9, but I truly like did not remember what had happened. So I started from the very beginning and I jumped in and I got all the way back to chapter 9. So I've reread up to chapter 9, basically all of that content twice, once listening, once reading. And then I just like, I have not been picking it up. I've just literally been letting it sit there. I just feel like I clearly have left it. This book came out in January. I have left it for a reason. I feel like I'm not that intrigued by it for some reason, and I'm disappointed in that because I was so excited about this book. So then I was like, okay, let me try audiobook again. So now that's where we're at. We're trying the audiobook again. I've been listening to it all this morning. I'm on chapter 13 now. I do feel like I'm not getting as much of the content because I'm listening to it as an audiobook, but I'm hopeful that at least it helps me get through some of the story and like understand the gist of what's happening. Normally I am really good with audiobooks, but for some reason this one in particular is just not doing it for me. I don't know what it is about this book. I'm just like not dying to read it, but it is one of my most anticipated books, and I remember at the end of Iron Flame being like so excited to start this book, and so I'm kind of bummed that I'm feeling this way. So I don't know, let's just continue reading and trying to listen to the audiobook. Hopefully that changes something for me. That's sort of where we're at right now, and those are the only updates I have. I'm literally only 22% of the way through the book, and I know that it's going to take me a hot second to get through it because it's like 800 pages on the Kindle, so it's quite long. Good morning, you guys. Today is a Saturday and I was attempting to read Onyx Storm all this week with the goal of finishing it by Sunday, tomorrow. I have really sad news. It's putting me in a slump. I don't know what else to say about it. It's not holding my interest. I don't really feel like listening to it ever. I don't ever feel like listening to it. I don't ever feel like reading it. I don't know if it's just like been a while since I read the last book, but I don't know. But what I am gonna do is listen to a recap. There's a ton of recaps on YouTube, but people do like 3-hour long, like super in-depth recaps, and I think I'll probably listen to one of those soon and just get the story. But I just don't want to sit around and not enjoy myself and not enjoy reading because it's my favorite hobby ever. Yeah, I think I'm DNFing it. Maybe one day I'll pick it back up, but I have a feeling I probably will not. And I'm also sad because I think I only got to like 22% of the way through the book, but it's just such a long book. Like 800 pages is a really, really long book. I feel like these anticipated reads were very hit or miss this time around. Like, I loved the Emily Henry book and I really liked Fearless, but the Abby Jimenez book I was like pretty disappointed in. I was giving it more thought and I am leaving it at a 3-star, but honestly it could be a 2-star. Like, over the past weekend I went to a bachelorette and we were talking about the book and I just had nothing really like good to say, which just makes me sad because normally I really like her books, and Onyx Storm I couldn't even get through. Normally these anticipated reads are so anticipated and like they're my favorite authors, so I have such a good time, but it was like just okay this year, and I'm just hopeful that next time it'll be a little bit better. But you never can know until you're actually reading the book. I do think it's hard with a lot of these books too because you see so many people who love these authors and who are so obsessed with them that they just like will automatically love everything that they write. Generally, like, I will buy every Emily Henry book because I want to know what she's writing next and I really love her stories, but that doesn't mean that every single book is going to get a 5-star. So I think it sometimes makes it hard to just go off of like Goodreads ratings, especially when you see that like before a book is published people will rate it. It's just a little hard sometimes to judge based off of ratings, which is probably why you shouldn't judge based off of ratings. Really, that's all I have. I did have a good time and I do feel like I kind of like scratched this itch, especially with Onyx Storm, because it came out in January and I've been wondering for so long, like, what was I missing? I still don't know exactly what I'm missing, but now I can like explore that freely and like be okay with seeing spoilers, and I know that it's probably not going to be something that I want to read, so it still scratches that itch for me. And all of the other books, like, I was certainly intrigued. I do think that there's like power with audiobooks to be able to listen to something that maybe I think that I wouldn't love if I went into it reading, which is kind of how I felt about the Abby Jimenez book. So I've just been learning more and more about myself and my tastes and my reading habits over the course of the last few years, basically. But that is all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for being here and watching. If you watched to the end of this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps out my channel. Thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.